The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everybody, it's Amanda with DevExpress and welcome to today's CodeRush feature workshop, Search Providers in Depth with Chief Architect of the IDE team, Mark Miller, and CodeRush Community Evangelist, Rory Becker. In this week's session, Mark and Rory are going to build a new navigation feature, Tab to Matching Tag, and enhance CodeRush's rename abilities for iNotify property changed implementers. This webinar is being recorded and you'll be able to watch and download it later on the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. And we love your questions and comments, so feel free to post them at any time throughout this webinar in the questions section of your control panel. And with that, here's Mark Miller and Rory Becker.
Thank you, Amanda. Holy, my goodness, cow. I'm not even sure if that's really an explanation, but I'm like, this one was to the wire. I was doing some prepping and I ran into like some challenges and then got another challenge, and so I'm actually at a point where I'm not sure if I'm going to get the second feature in or not. But there's two features that I want to write today, and I'll show you a little bit about those what I'm looking at. And one of the features I want to do is I want to be able to get from. And by the way, Rory, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Don't worry.
Awesome. That's great. So good. Yeah, I wish there was like some sort of audible kind of way of sending screams across Twitter because text seems insufficient. At any rate, so I want to be able to get from here down to here, to be able to get from the engine tag here to the end of the engine tag. I want to be able to get here quickly. Right now, when I want to do it, my trick is for now is I use selection increase and then right arrow to get to the end, or selection increase and left arrow to get to the beginning. So it's kind of a two-key kind of shortcut to move from one side to the other. But I want it to be I want it to be faster. I want to be able to just be in here, hit the tab key, and let's say no, I forgot the number of that right there. Hit the tab key here from one place to another. That's what I want to be able to do. So that's one of the things I want to do. And then the other thing was, let's go here, car, and it's kind of related, but with car I've got this iNotify property changed interface, and when I create a new field, like for example here I created a new field called age, which is oddly a string. Let's maybe fix that so we are so it's not like we're not in completely weird zone. So I'll type in PI to get a new property, type integer, we'll call this age. So notice the property templates that are built into CodeRush detect to see if it's an iNotify property changed implementer. And if it is, it generates this code instead, okay, of the normal stuff. Normally, if we're just like in a regular class, like regular class like this, and we type in PI, then we get this. Right, et cetera, and again. That's what we get. So, but what I want to do is I want to be able to, when we rename age, to get this piece as well. Now, I thought we had the architecture to support this, and what I was learning in the last 30 minutes is that we don't quite have it. But there is a workaround, and that's what I was working on to make this all work in time. So what's going on currently is, and this is what I just discovered, is that when you go, you know what? Let me give you a little more background information, and then I'll tell you what we'll do part one, feature one, and when we get to this, I'll explain some of the complexity of what's going on here. So we'll just save this. We'll go into the DevExpress menu. We'll choose new plugin, and the first one. So we'll create probably two plugins is what we'll do. So the first plugin we'll call the element tag, I don't know, tabber for tab index reference, something like that. That's what I'll call it. So we'll be able to get from one element tag to the other. And now that I've done this, me start up a second instance of Visual Studio because I want to go back and look at. I want to show you what's going on inside of the files. Look at those with the. Oh, I guess I could do it here. I could do it here too. Hold on. Let's go in here and we'll say add a new item. We'll add an HTML file here, and HTML page. And so let's go into Tool Windows, Diagnostics, Expressions Lab. We'll dock this off to the side. And if you don't have the Expressions Lab, I think it's now part of the install. I seem to recall hearing about this. But you can also get it online if you don't have it. Just search for DX Core and Expressions Lab, and I think the top Google hit will take you to the page that distributes it. At any rate, this is a view into the source code, including HTML and XAML and XML and things like that. And what I wanted to do is put the caret on the things we're interested in and just examine them a little bit here. So here we have HTML elements, and in fact, all of these are HTML elements.
So this, Mark, is the same tool we use for analyzing our code when we're looking to construct a particular arrangement of code or maybe learn more about it. But this is working every bit as well with HTML and presumably would work with XML and various other documents as well.
Yes. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
So here I am looking at the source code for the plugin using the Expressions Lab. So it's all pretty it's all very neat. It's a language independent representation of structural documents. I guess you could say that. I just made that up, but it is, these are documents with structure, right? They can be parsed out that Apache supports. So HTML qualifies, C# qualifies, C++ qualifies, and you get a language independent representation of that. Okay. So the things we're interested in are HTML elements. Now, due to I hate saying this, but I can't stop myself. So here it goes. Due to a design flaw in the extensibility for tab to next reference, we are forced, if we want to add any new ability, any new tab to next reference feature, at least for now, before 11.2, because between now and 11.2, the design flaw, our intention is to fix this flaw. But for right now, if you want to add any additional tab to next reference functionality, you have to modify the binding to tab and shift tab to include the context for which it's appropriate. So right now, let's cancel in a second. Right now, if I hit the tab key here, so we get this because of my prep work that I was doing before, but normally you wouldn't see that, and then you just get to here, right? Nothing, something weird happens. Okay. So what we want to do instead is we want to go in and we want to say, okay, let's specify context. What we're looking for is a context that says, hey, we're inside of an HTML element. Remember when I clicked on that, it said HTML element over here. So that's what I'm looking for over here. And as you may be guessing, because of that other dialog you saw, is we really don't appear to have anything that says, hey, you are in an HTML element.
Is there any in XML? Because this would be just as useful in an XML document.
Well, you've got an XML literal and you've got an XML doc comment.
Not quite what we're after.
Exactly. Let's, since we're talking about it, let's bring up an XML document. So we have XML in here, XML file. Let's create one of those. And let's just come in here and say automobile, and then we've got a tag. Notice it's still an HTML element. So I can work with that. I'm okay. I'm happy. And inside that you've got an engine, and etc. So these are, whoops, there we go. These are all still HTML elements, as you can see when I click on them. Click there, it's HTML element. So, okay, so we're happy with, I think we're happy with this. Let me just save all of this. I wonder if this is going to have any problems compiling. I guess if it does, we can just change some properties. Yeah, okay, everything's okay with the files we have. Okay, so with that said, we need to add our own context that says, are we in one of these pieces here? And then we also need to add a searcher provider, which we've done before when we extended tab to next reference. If you're interested in seeing that, we created one, the primitive expression tab navigation one. In fact, Rory, if you can find a link to that and paste it in, I'll bring it up on my page over here as well for the primitive tab. Well, in fact, here you could get to it this probably the fastest way. Community plugins like this, and then do a search for it. You want to click on get plugins. Don't just search projects. We want to do
quickest way is to click wiki, and the list that comes up is alphabetical, so it'll be CR primitive tab.
When you say the list, where? Here? Or what? I'm on wiki.
You seem to have a corruption of the page. If you click away from wiki and come back.
Maybe it's because of the small page that I'm on. Is that it, maybe? All right, let's try it. Let's go away and then back. Oh, here we go. Like that.
That's
let's see our primitive tab. Okay, cool. So you can go find it there. And so this is one that we built in this session. And it helps us move from primitive to primitive that are identical. So we had to create and change a shortcut there. There you can see right here what we're talking about. So we had to create, actually, I don't know if I think we already had the context. I'm not sure if we did or not. But at any rate, it's not a big deal. Context is extensible. So we're going to do that. So we are going to bring up the tool window, the toolbox, and we're going to drop on two controls. One is a context provider. And we've done this a lot. It's very easy to add a context. And we're going to add also a searcher provider is what we will do. Let me do one other thing, because we keep getting this dumb message on here, because I didn't delete this context. What happens is in testing I removed the plugin, but I didn't delete the context, so you don't see it here. It's not something editable, but it still exists. So what I'm going to try doing is I'm going to try choosing copy context. Let's first verify that these are the same. Both contexts are exactly the same, and if they are, I'll try copying them and then pasting and see if that gets rid of it. Are they the same? No. Oh wait, this one actually has the piece that we don't want in there. So that's the Shift tab. It got rid of the other one. I wonder if I come in here and I make a change here and then back to clear it out. It clears it out, it looks like. Okay. So that may be the way to get rid of it. Let's see if that works. Okay.
Because normally the only way to interface with those contexts is by using the tree, but the tree is built based on the DLLs that you've got in place, with actually has the context. So if you haven't got it there, you haven't got the ability to remove it directly.
Right, but what happens is if you don't change it, it saves the context. The context is preserved unless you change it. So I just changed it and that got rid of it. So that solved the problem, which is good. So normally what I would have done is I would have gone in with the DLL still loaded. I would have removed the context after my prep was done so that I get back to a clean state, but I forgot to do that. I deleted the DLL first, then I came in to make the changes, and I realized, oops, it's going to be a little harder. But it looks like that's the way to do it. So I just went in and made a change to the context, and it got rid of the one because it couldn't hold it. There was no entry for it. So good. We're in a good, clean state now. Okay. So and for folks who are doing this from scratch, everything I just did is only because of the prep, the interference from the prep work I did earlier.
Yeah.
That's not something you have to do. Okay. So we have the context provider. Let's start filling out some fields for it. So for the context provider, we're going to say this is, we're going to call the provider name. Now, one other thing that is important, and that is where do I put the context? The provider name is essentially the path, editor/code, and then inside here. The reason I want it inside here, inside these, where all these others are, is, well, first of all, it belongs here, right? We're asking the question, are you in a particular thing? The other reason, though, is notice I have several green checks. Like here there are 3 in view. Are we in a primitive? Are we in an identifier? Are we in an MPC action? Use it. Now, the way the green checks are combined is, in terms of logic, is this. If they are all siblings, as these are, then only one needs to be satisfied to satisfy the context. So these are like OR. These are like OR. Right? So are we in a primitive, okay, or are we in an MVC action, or are we in an identifier? Okay? Those are ORed together. Well, we have one more OR that we want to add, or are we in an HTML tag? And so we'll implement that. So I'm thinking about calling this something like editor. So right here with the provider name. So editor, we're just following that path down, code / in HTML element name tag. So it's kind of a long one, but I don't want it to be just are we in the tag itself. I want it to be are we in this range from here to here, or this range from here to here.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
I was just about to check about that because there are, to my mind, there are three different types of inside. There's the open tag, the open close tag you've got there, and you can be inside that, so you could be deep nested inside it.
Yes.
You could also be, as we're looking to have, on the actual name of the tag, be that the end tag or the close tag.
Yeah.
There's also the possibility of a self-closing tag, which would have nowhere to navigate to.
True. We need to maybe look at that as well. We need to say, do we have an end tag or not? So
I hadn't thought of it, but this piece you've got here, yes, that's...
Let's take a look at that and see what that looks like. Let's remove the end tag, and let's go look at the expressions lab and see what's going on here. Let's look at the difference here. So here's automobile. And one of the sweet properties it has is close tag name range, 4.3 to 4.13. So let's look at this. We put the caret over here, look down over here. Line 4, character 3. 4.3, and the end is at 4.13. Okay, sweet. So that property of the close tag name range is something we'll need to use. If you scroll down and look down here for an open, you won't find it. And I did this and I was like, what? Why do we have an open? Then I realized, well, you know what? We've got this good old name range property which we've used all over the place. Look at it, 2.2 to 2.12. Click here, 2.2, click there, 2.12. So we have name range, which we've used a lot of times before when we built plugins, and we have this other property called close tag name range. Let's see what happens on engine. Is close tag name range empty? That's what I'm hoping. It's empty. So we'll just check that and see if it, because it can be in either one, but if close tag name range is empty, we're not available, we don't care. For the context, though, I can still say the context is true, I think. But I think for the should I do that or not?
Depends if you want it to be used more generically for other things later on.
Yeah,
technically, you would be within a HTML element.
I
mean, are you going to push this context into the core later on? Well,
yeah, there's a chance of that. And the other thing is maybe I should have a second context. Does it have a closed tag?
Yeah,
you know, but
that'd work.
Yeah, it's the thing is that when, you know when I said that we have this design flaw and we're going to fix it in 11.2. In 11.2, we're simply going to go. We're going to replace all that with one context that says is tab index reference available, and we're going to go to your provider and check to see what you're saying in your get availability check. Are you available? That's what we're going to do. At least that's our intention.
Evaporate.
I'm sorry. What did you say?
I'm going to say this particular problem will just evaporate.
That is our intention. The only reason we might back out of that is because of time constraints or architectural issues or something else like a performance hit or something that was unexpected. We might have to come back and say, okay, 12.1 instead of 11.2. But in
that case, surely we go with the single simplest thing that will work.
Okay, you know what? I like you, Rory. I'm glad you're here. So in HTML, so let's do this. Let's call it in paired, which let's make the change down here. In paired HTML element name tag. And this should update automatically when I click on. There we go. Okay, so this is the display name, and we won't change that. So now it's got to be an HTML element name tag, and it's got to be paired.
Sure.
That make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So then we'll, I'm going to just copy this to the clipboard. We'll come down here and we'll say CTX in paired.
The interesting thing being, of course, is that when said changes are made in 11.2, we'll just be able to copy the code out of this context and put it in the get availability of the main functionality. Just move the code across.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So, all right. So here we go. Satisfied if the caret is at the beginning or ending name tag for an HTML an HTML element with two tags, or with a begin and ending tag. With begin and end tags. All right, there we go. So that's our context. Come over here. Context satisfied. Double click on that. Let's go back up over here. Let's go to our search provider. Let's fill out some pieces here. What do we need in this provider name? So I'm going to call this our I was going to say HTML and Navigator, but I'm thinking like, yeah, I'll go and say it. HTML tag nav is what I'll call this. And there's a display name option, but to my knowledge, I'm not sure where this actually shows up. It just may be inherent in this property. Also for description, not sure where it shows up. We'll just say supports tab to next reference.
If nowhere else, would it not show up in some of the automated help that's generated in the guide?
That's what I was wondering about. Yeah, it might be there. So
but you're right, within the user interface, there's precious little places maybe for disabling logic. I can't think where that would be.
Tag nav is what we'll call this. So it's just those pieces. Now, the real question down here is used for navigation, used for renaming. Only navigation. I don't think we're going to use it for renaming, although theoretically we could. We already have a change tag. Well, that would be interesting to use it for renaming to see what would happen there. To just support rename automatically for that. We already have a refactoring called change tag, though, so I'm going to leave this blank for now, maybe investigate that later. Okay, over here, we want to handle check availability, and we want to handle search references. Those are the two we want to handle over here. And I think this one I'm just going to run it, and we'll see what happens. And we'll probably need to refactor, you know me, Rory, and we'll have to stop and come back and refactor. So we've got our context satisfied, all those pieces. Let's save everything. Let's run it. Just close my watch window. That's like the most useful window I have. So Visual Studio is starting up. I'm seeing the about box on my other monitor, but it's taking a while. I've noticed this today is that startup time for Visual Studio is getting really slow, and I'm not sure if it's because I have a lot of things up or if there's something else. I just have not had a chance to look into what's causing the speed problem. But we will as soon as it comes up. Here we go. The dot box is gone, and let's see where we are. We're going to just see the main window come up. Is this? Do I have? I'm not sure if this is it or not. Because I have a second instance of Visual Studio that I started up. Is that what's going on? I have 4 instances on the screen. Great. Let's kill one of these and see what happens.
You launched a spare one back when you were going to use the
That's
the expression navigator.
Yeah. So let's see. I just closed. Let's see what happens back here. Looks like nothing's happening. It looks like it may still be that I've got the good one open. This is the one I'm debugging. Oh! I closed the wrong one. Okay, one more time. Sorry. Did you get that link, Rory, by the way, to the, or we didn't need it because I already went to.
We didn't, no.
Yep. All right. Let's do some action shots. Okay, that was awesome. Yeah, unusual. Not sure what's going on. Come on, there we go. So I'm going to try and keep this instance open as long as possible, I think, since it seems to be taking so long to start up. All right, so let's open Object Initializer Test. So step one is we need to go into the shortcut binding, and we need to change the shortcut binding for tab to next reference so that it makes use of the new context we just added. So let's do that. All right. So here, these are the two bindings. It's in navigation references, nav fields. By the way, if you're not sure if you find one of the tabs, one of the things you can do is come in here and say, look for the tab key. And I come in and right-click some special key. Choose tab. Otherwise, I can just press whatever key I'm interested in here. Just press those. So right-click this, say, look for the tab key, and you find, and then once you find it, once you find that key, what you can do is you can say, well, okay, let's click this button, and you just see all of them, and you get a sense of all the bindings we have to tab. And you can go through those and say, well, which one is the one I want? It's this one right here, reference next. This one right here is an alternative that's been disabled. But once you get to this, then you can go back, click this button to restore the folders, and then you can see where it is. So there are navigation references, navigates tab. So that's the reference next piece right there. So let's go in and change that to now make use of editor code in, where is it? Why am I not seeing it? In paired, that's why I called it paired. It's HTML, not paired. Is that what it is?
It's been passed there.
There it is, right there. In paired HTML element name tag. So now I'm not liking that anymore because it's hard to discover because it's not, should start with the HTML and then end with paired. But at any rate, I'm not going to change it. For now, it's working. So there's tab binding right there. Now come over here, do the same, make the same change. In paired HTML tag, click OK. Okay, so that's step one. Step two is let's go try and use it. Now at this point, with the tab key, and now because we have the tab key, it checks to see if the context is satisfied. So now we're coming in here. We've got these event args, but I don't think they're going to be very useful to us. We just have parameters and satisfied to it. So what we have to do instead is go into CodeRush, go into source, go into get active, and let's see what the typecasting does in HTML elements. And we have ambiguity. And by golly, wouldn't it be nice if there was a submenu here to allow me to just select this or click on this instead of having to type it in? So let's go get it. DevExpress dot using CodeRush dot structural parser dot HTML element. That's the one we want. Okay, so there's the typecast. Hold on, let me give you more code so you can see more code on the screen. So there's the typecast. Let's declare a local for that, and let's get out of here if it's null. So step. At this point, next we want to check that close tag and see if make sure it's not empty. What was it called? Close tag name range. So if close tag name range equals source range dot TSR. I think I had it. Oh, I thought I had it. Wait, TSRG. Source range. Hold on, I added this right here. I don't do that. The source range dot empty. What? Oh, wait, IntelliSense is a little, just not giving me what I'm expecting. There we go. All right, so if it's equal to source range empty, then that means it's only, it is not a paired HTML tag. Okay, so let's execute this line of code, and we're okay. Next, we want to say, we want to get the caret source point. So looking for that, called caret position, like that. And then we want to say if HTML element dot name range, that's the first one, dot contains the caret position, or HTML element dot close tag name range dot contains the caret position. Then we want to say EA dot satisfied the string. Okay, so what's going on? Name range. I haven't talked about these in a while, so I thought it might be a good idea to talk about them. Also, source range here. Source range is just a range of coordinates from one point to another, like this or like that. That's what a source range is.
But it's a character-based.
Character-based.
Not a pixel-based or anything more minute than that. So this will be characters or white space or symbols, that kind of thing.
And the coordinates are in lines and characters that you see down here. So the values you get back, like from source point, what the values are of caret position, totally correspond to the line number and the char over here that you're going to see in Visual Studio. All right. They also so name range is a source range. This is a source range, and and source range has a method called contains. So I can pass in a caret position to see if the caret is inside that range. If it returns true, we're good. So at this point, let's go back and set execution here. And step there. So here's caret position. It's at 2, 3, and we're satisfied. Why? Because the name range contains it. Okay?
Yep.
So we're satisfied. Step 1. That also means that we are going to jump into search references, or actually, yeah, I think we're going to see another breakpoint here in a second. Let's run it. There we go. So now we're into our check availability for this, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy this, and however here I'm going to do something a little bit different. So here we have something called code active, and we have element inside here. These are provided by the event args. So here the context satisfied, this is just always going to be the, there's nothing provided by the event args here because we don't really have any additional information on what you need or what you want to work with. So we just go with this CodeRush source active, which returns the active element, the element around the caret inside the editor. That's what this does here. But down here, we don't have that. Down here, we have more knowledge and information. In fact, this check availability could come programmatically. So let's go to the event args instead, and we're going to grab elements is what we'll do. Okay? And we'll use elements in place of CodeRush source active. At this point, somebody's got to be thinking, oh, for goodness sake, smart refactor. And I would, but I'm debugging, and I can't do it. So I'll do that before I submit. But we'll put the similar code together in one place. So this is going to get us the HTML element. And then, instead of going with the source point here, we're going to come in and go into event args, and I think I've got a caret. And caret's just a type source point. It's just the source point position for the current caret position. Again, that can be set programmatically. And that's why I'm using the event args here instead of just using the exact same code. So we'll just pass these in as when I extract this out to its own method. All right, so now, then we get down to here, and now our event args is going to look something slightly different. It's going to be available is equal to true, like that. And so there, that's our code editor. So this should all essentially be the same, and now we're true. So then we're left with the search references. And in the past, when we did this, remember from the primitive, boy, was that a lot of work. We had to create this filter and all this stuff. We had to find all exact duplicates of that string or the number throughout the entire solution. Yeah. Well, thankfully here, it's going to be a lot easier. So we're coming down here into the event args for the search references, and it's going to all we need to do is just grab the element and then find its paired piece and add it. So it's going to look something like this, I think. So at least we start with here, step through here. There's our HTML element, and then we want to come down here and we want to say ea.add range. And we're going to create a new file source range, and we've done this before, but just to review, file source range combines a file and a source range together. So it's kind of like saying, let's say we wanted to remember, well, specifically this and this. So these are the source ranges, and this is the file. The whole purpose behind this is what if you're dealing with a language where you can have a reference to something showing up across multiple files, like we can in C# and VB, like class references do, or references to members of a class show across file. So what we're going to do is come in here, we're going to say new source file range. We're going to, the first parameter is the source file, so we'll say HTML element dot file node, like that, and the range is going to be HTML element dot name range. That's the first one. And then the second one is going to come in, and this is going to be the close tag name range. And I think that's it. I'm going to run it, and let's see if it works. Wouldn't that be awesome? That's all I had to do.
That'd be cool.
That's it. I'm down to engine, tab, 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 cylinder, tab,
nice.
tab, tab. Let's take this out. Let's remove end tag and see if we get anything at all. Tab just generates tabs now. Okay? So that's it. That is feature 1 done in 35 minutes. That's not too bad. What do you think? Good? And it's useful. I like it.
It's good, yeah.
All right. So that's one. But see how cool that was? Look at what we did. We added files, right, that had nothing to do with our plugin, just so that we could kind of test things in our plugin, right, to bring up the expressions lab and to see what it looked like, right? You can totally do this kind of stuff. Sometimes I will write code in my plugin to just test things out. It's simply to just work with the expressions lab and see what I'm dealing with. All right, new plugin. So here's the challenging part. This is the part that I have no idea if we're going to make this work or not. Cross your fingers, Rory. Cross your fingers, Amanda. And let's do it. So this is going to be something that I want this. This is the thing that renames the property, including the string, inside iNotify property changed implementers. And you know what? Let's.
So having generated an iNotify property, you've got a string reference to the name of the property in question, so that it can
let's build this real quick. I'm just going to call this test class like this. We'll move it over to its own file. Just want to get this full screen so you can see this. Let's come in here. We're going to implement iNotify property changed. Boom. And boom. So we've got the implementer for it right there. Oh, this drives me nuts in there the way they do this. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay.
Well, they've got a plugin that will remove that for you.
Oh, that's right. Didn't we create one? It's already there.
There's one for remove a single region, but there's also another one we've got on the community site that will take out everyone in the same file.
And take them all out?
Mm-hmm.
I think I saw that. Yeah, that's right. Let's go look at that. Using my new skill that Rory taught me. Click on wiki. What is it? Remove region, I think, isn't it?
Probably
remove
plural,
regions.
yeah.
There it is right there. So you've got the plugin already out there. By the way, has anybody noticed? We're like rocking in terms of number of plugins that we have out here. We've got like, I don't know, how many do we have, Roy?
It's a scary number.
I was going to say 100, but maybe it's not 100. But there's a lot.
Last time I counted, it was something like 115, but we've had more since then.
Okay, so we got there's a lot of plugins out here. Okay, so all right, so here we are, I haven't created my new project yet. So let's do. I said let's create a new test class. I'm going to just copy all this clipboard. I think. No, just take the class and copy the clipboard. So I want to put this in my new plugin that I built. I want to.
I'll keep it all in the same place for demonstration.
Yeah, I think I do want to create a new plugin. So let's go ahead and we'll
That's good.
this here. Okay, let's go in, create a new plugin. And we're going to call this CR underscore, and CR stands for CodeRush, it's the convention I use. And this is going to be a iNotify prop change rename. That's what I'm going to call this. Okay. All right, so here what I want to do is let's go into the code and we'll kind of do that thing that we were doing before, where we let's put the class in, let's move it to its own file, and yeah, that's sweet. We already got one model being used in there. Now we'll create a new property, call it age. And down in here we have the string, and so what I was originally hoping for, I thought we had an architecture that allowed us to hook into the rename, so that when you were here and you said rename, that you could just hook right in and say, hey, you know what, I want to rename this guy too down here. Unfortunately, we don't have that. I thought we had it, but we don't. We do, however, oh, and the other thing too is if we do a searcher provider, just like we did before, we have a search provider. Mm-hmm. Its get availability check was not called when I was testing this if another search provider already said I'm available, right? So the rename, refactoring, right, it basically says, okay, yeah, I'm already available here, and I'm available anywhere else. Like if you've got a method, and you say like age is equal to whatever 45, like that, right there, it's available as well, and your search provider is not called. So we don't have an entry point into rename.
Right.
Unless we're here. And that's my workaround.
Okay.
For this issue. So like I say, it's not as easy as I wanted it to be, but it's a point of discussion for the devs, and so I think it's highly likely.
So logically, effectively, the first search provider that claims yes, I can do that is the one that gets to try.
Yes, that's what's going on.
And that's for speed purposes. We don't want to go through dozens of these things if the first one knows how to do it. But
exactly.
In this case, the first one isn't quite clever enough to deal with the item in quotes there.
So I will be talking to the devs about this. We'll talk about this because this is something I really want. I want to be able to take our existing rename capability and have it be very easy to modify and make changes to. So I want this available here is where I want. So let's go. So that's our test, and we have a similar test inside our test project that we've been working with. Let's drop some controls on and fill these values out. So let's go to the toolbox, let's pin it, put a search provider on. By the way, The name of this control is going to be renamed for the 11.2 release to just search provider. If you still have if you still have code that uses the old name piece, it'll still work. You just won't see it in the toolbox, and you'll just only see search provider there. By the way, if you don't see it here, you can right-click and you can say choose items. So the other thing I've requested for 11.2 is we're going to give icons for these pieces that don't have icons. So that'll all be kind of promoted to kind of more of a first-class kind of looking citizen. All right, so properties. Let's look at the properties for this. So here we're going to say use for rename true, and the provider name, it just has to be something unique. So we'll say this is going to be the I notify property changed. I'm going to copy that clipboard because I can use that again. We'll call this rename like that, and we'll say supports rename from the string inside, and I notify property changed property inside a property in a class that implements a property change. And we'll call this SP paste. I think the Visual Studio does that. Okay. I property notify changed rename. Okay, so just the most important one is use for renaming true. So now we'll come down in here. We could also say use for navigation. Again, interesting thing to consider. We want check availability, so we can tell it we're available, and we want search references. So those are the two pieces that we want. And I think I can come in here and just set breakpoints, and we can run. So let's do that. A little bit of a slow startup time. Good time to look for questions if we have any.
Actually, not so much a question as a comment. Remember, we were looking for ways of removing the regions. Our good friend, I'm gonna make an attempt at his name. That's brave. I believe the WAV file said it was Pachemic. So I'm going to go with that. And he's mentioning that we've also got our code cleanup routines now, which potentially I think there's an option in there to remove all regions. So this is our new feature with 11.1, I think it was. I've got a quite good from my pronunciation,
It's not bad.
which is considerably better than I thought I'd be able to do.
You're awesome. Yeah, when I first got the WAV file, I was like, I practiced a couple times. I was really confident.
Yeah.
But I've completely forgotten it since then. It's like, oh yeah. Okay.
It's fun because from a Latin perspective, as English is sort of pseudo-derived, there's no relationship at all between the letters in that name and the pronunciation. It's just really strange.
Can we send the guy a letter to explain that to him? Notice we already have a breakpoint over here in check availability. Okay, so here we have our check availability. So what we're looking for is we want to be inside a primitive expression. In fact, let me just clear breakpoints for a second, and we'll look at what we're trying to get into. Actually, we could have done it over here. We can do it here. So Windows Diagnostics Instructions Lab. All right, here's the test class. Actually, what I want to do is go in here. So we've worked with primitive expressions before, so I knew in advance this was going to be the type we were going to be working with. Here's the full class right here. By the way, so we say primitive expression, but in reality, this happens to be a C primitive expression. So this is like very cool, right? In the sense that the C primitive expression is likely to be a descendant of just a primitive expression. So special methods or things like that you can work with, or properties that differentiate this from its ancestor. But the cool thing is, from a language intent, this as from the common, you can do it from both a common perspective and a very specific perspective as well. So that's cool. So it's a primitive expression. That's what we're dealing with. So we want to have code over in here that checks for that. So let's come back over here. We want to do something like this. Let's clear this out. Sound quality still okay?
Went for a little bit, but we got the majority, I think, there.
Oh, no. What's going on? So we're going to say this as a primitive expression. For the refactor key, for local for that, and say if it's null, we're out. We're out here. So I'm just going to step through this. What I'd love is a breakpoint on the else of that. So what I have to do is I'll just type an LD for create block, so I can set a breakpoint here, so that if we get to a point when we are, so now we'll get here if we are primitive expressions. So let's just keep running until we move into the primitive expression. Let's go over into car, and we put it there. So now we should see our breakpoint, and now I can get rid of this, and we can say, okay, so now we know we're in a primitive expression. Next, we want to see the type of the primitive expression. So at this point, we really need to get the watch window up to take a look at what this is. So let's bring up the watch window. Let's put in primitive expression and see what we get. We can work with this. We have primitive type is the full expression type name. So that's what I really want to work with, because I want to make sure there aren't two strings, which is possible. Another class of strings with another name. I'm going to say if primitive expression dot expression type name is not equal to system dot string. Okay. So we can set the code. All right, what's going on? Okay, wait. I think I just did it. Set it back up here. Okay, there, and then there. Okay. Okay, so we didn't get to the return. We did not get to the return there. I just saw a note on here that my audio connection has been restored. How has it been, Roy?
We are having the odd bit of interference. Occasionally, even visuals are lagging. Not as much as audio, but.
This is so curious. All right, so all right, well, we'll keep going, and I will look.
Someone using all your bandwidth in the next room, yeah?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's using my bandwidth at this point. If they are, it's like, you know, unauthorized, you know, machine robot Skynet kind of thing using my bandwidth. So so anyway, unfortunately, I'm not going to. There's nothing I can do now. I just have to keep pushing through unless.
Well, so just to reiterate, though, we've checked that first of all we have got a primitive expression, and not only that, it's of type string. Okay, yes. By the time we hit where your character, where the point of runtime is now.
Yes. Next, we need to see, you know, are we a string that's inside of a property? So what we're going to do next is we're going to say primitive expression dot get parent. There's a lot of get parent pieces. Get parent method. All of these really nice pieces here. We're going to get property. There's also get property accessor, which will get either a setter or a getter back if we're in the right spot or no. But I'm going to just skip all the way up to the top to get parent property. That's what I'm going to do. And let's declare a look for that, and we'll call this, let's call this property. On the clipboard. And now I can come down here and I can say, again, if we're null, then we'll get out. So let's come back up here. Step through this code that we've written, step, and property is good. Next we want to say if property.name, .name equals primitive expression .value, primitive value. There. Notice primitive of value is a type object. Let's have a breakpoint here. Let's put the caret here. And let's just look at this. If you look at this, there's age, there's age. They look like they match, but because this is an object and this is a string, we skip over it. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to come in here, hit open paren ts space to give you that string. T, if you're not familiar with what I just did, T for type, and then S is the mnemonic for string. And the CodeRush training window will show you that. So it's just a shortcut for getting types. So if property name is now, let's go back up here and now see if that works. That should work now. Okay, so now we are in an expression of type string. The content of the expression matches the name of the property, and we're in that property. So at this point, I'm going to say we are now available. So I'm going to say ea.available equals true. And so let's get right there, step, and set a breakpoint here, and run. So now we're available. Nothing really seems like it's happening, but if I now bring this up, we should see rename, where we didn't see it before.
That's right. There's no facility to rename string literals in the standard product.
Exactly. So now, because we've done this, the rename refactoring says, hey, okay, I can work with this. The only thing we're not doing is we're not highlighting all references from the previous. So I need to investigate that. But so let's hit enter, and we should get to our breakpoint. So keep the breakpoint there. So run. All right. So what, I was talking about how rename is now available on the string when it wasn't available before. And when I hit enter, we're going to get to a breakpoint, and now we're at the breakpoint. And now here we can act on this. So I'm going to take the code that we had before, and I'm going to copy it here. And before I give this to Rory, I will refactor this so we don't have to duplicate code. But for now, I'm doing it because we're debugging. And so now we have, we're at this point. I'm going to just say this. I'm going to say it's not equal, then we're going to say return. We're out of there. So now at this point, we have a property. I should be able to say property dot find all references. That's going to give me an element collection. We'll call this all property references. And now that I have that, I should be able to do a for each through all of that, which is my element, and element like that. And then now what I want to do is I want to go into the event args. So I want to say event args.add range, and this new file source range, and it needs a source file. And how am I going to get it? The trick is getting a source file from an element. I'm thinking it's going to be the first file. Is that source file? That's an iSource file. Let's try this as a source file. Get that. And then the source range is going to be ranges. This is going to getting the rename thing insert. So this is the part that I didn't finish, as you can probably tell by the policing change here, but I'm not so sure about. So you know what I want to do is I want to set a breakpoint here and investigate. That's what I want to do. So let's go, let's run it and get to the breakpoint. And we should see, I think, 1 or 2 references to this, I suppose, that I'm expecting to see. So here is the first one, element. And let's go add element to the watch. And bring this up so we can see what's inside of element. And let's get rid of primitive expressions so we don't need that anymore. So let's see element dot first file, element.cs. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. And then let's look at element dot first range. Not good. I think I have a name range in here as well. So do I have a first name range? I don't. I do. That looks better. Notice its length is 3, and we're inside car.cs, so the name is or no, I'm sorry, it's age. So we're in car, and this is age, right? So it's 3 letters long. So that's all making sense to me. So I'm going to try this using both of these and see if that works. So we'll say, so we're creating a new file source range, just like we did before. So this is going to be first file, and then element dot first name range. Like that. And let's get rid of that and see if this all works. Put it like up here. So we'll go in here. Oh, we also have to add 1 more range. 1. So only add 1. So only add 1. There's only 1 reference to it. So we actually have to add 2 more. We have to add. We have to go in and say ea.addRange and pass in the primitive expression, and we need its here. This is just it's the file node, and you know I've talked about this so many times before. IElement versus language element. While I write this code, Roy, can you explain the difference since your audio quality is probably a little better than mine?
Certainly, yeah. So a language element has got much more detail, if you like, about the item. The light elements represented most of the time by the I such and such an interface effectively is the very, very light version. So these items could be outside of the file, typically found in references and things like this, certainly in reference assemblies. And we don't really need to load in 100% of the detail in order to get the most out of these. For most cases, you just need things like the name, the rough approximation of the range, things like that. And these can be found in the light versions of these classes. So that's the general picture of it. You can rehydrate and get the full information about this, but for performance reasons, we limit it to just the core critical pieces initially, and if you need more than that, that's what you go and ask for.
All right, so I just want to put I want to see if one of our devs, Alex Corkin, is in watching with us. Well, it looks like he's not in. So we have, I was just looking for a language independent way to do this. So our name range for the print expression actually includes the quotes. And we need it to be tinier. We need to be smaller. The problem is that we need to understand what the knowledge, we need to understand what's delimiting it. What is delimiting that? And while we know in C# it's going to be quotes, in something else, in another language, it might be something different. So what I was hoping for is a value range property on this, but I'm not seeing it on this. I see, and so there may be something. Let me just have a range, whatever. Yeah, I wish this filtered better. So at this point, I'm going to say, once it pops in my head, which I'm not seeing it here, I'm going to, I think we're going to have to cheat a bit. So we will say, we'll do this. We'll say new source range, and we're going to pass in, let's do this. Let's say it's equal to primitive expression.name range, and then what we'll do is, I think we can just modify it. We're going to say dot start dot offset.
You get offset point. You can be specific. You say offset point.
Right.
It'll take a parameter of
so no lines that
relative
all over.
Yeah.
And then we're going to say n that offset point -1, like that. Yeah. We're going to call this the primitive range. Is what we call this. So that's the string range for that piece. Then we'll pass that in here. So let's execute that code. Make sure it's.
Now hang on. I believe offset point returns a new point rather than changing the existing one. It's not. I believe they're structs or.
Let's see. If that's the case, I think I can modify just the offset itself. Because look, it says gets or sets. What's this? You're right, it does. Let me just try this. Let me try the offset and do this. I want to see if that works. I think it does. I think we've done this before and it surprised you.
That'd be cool. I don't remember that, but yeah, if it works, good.
All right, so what do we have? Yeah, now we're down into a range that spans only 3 characters.
Nice. I'm surprised again.
Okay, so Alex is actually telling me there's no special point for, there's no piece for value that we have to calculate it. Alex, my concern is I want to be able to calculate it in a language-independent way. In other words, what happens if a language delimits strings with something that takes more characters than a quote, for example? So at any rate, right now, this is potentially a language-dependent way. It makes an assumption. Fix this assumption that the string delimiters.
Yes, in C# you can put an @ character on the front for some kind of literal interpretation, don't you?
Right, exactly. You could do that. I think it would be legal in this case. The string character delimiter characters are only a single character wide. Okay. All right. So we have that, and then we also need to get the declaration of the property itself, which we have here. And it's its name range. So we need this, and then we also need to get the property.filenode and the property.name range. That should do it. That should nail it. All right.
Cool, so we've got the name of the property, all the references to the property, and the string literal inside the setter. And these are all the items that we're going to be changing the values.
And there we go. Nice. So now we can come in here and say, you know, new age, like that.
Very nice.
We made a change all around. So it's not bad. It's a compromise. Not as good as the, you know, getting it from here. Because right now if we rename from here,
yeah,
we get this, which is not good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, and also now our rename down here isn't going to work anymore because it doesn't match, so it's not available. However, if I come up here, rename this to New Age, whoa, this is too much in there. Copy too much in. Just New Age, whoops, looks like I have one more time. Rename, there we go, New Age, and then come in and go back down to here. There's the rename now it's available.
So I got a question for you, Mark. You know how we said that before there wasn't a rename available on the string literal? We appear to have a Visual Studio link to a rename that's available still. How does that happen? Is that tied into our own detection?
Oh, it might be. Ah, interesting. So that's a very interesting question. So yeah, here's what's happening. It's in order to detect whether Visual Studio rename is available or not, or any of the Visual Studio refactorings, we check to see if all our refactoring is available.
Okay, so we're saying it should be available when we say ours is.
Well, in most cases. With the case of, Alex is actually IMing me right now, and he says we use the same availability check for VS rename as for our rename. Well,
okay, so because we've just modified it, we modified both.
That doesn't really make, hold on a second. Nothing is available there. No refactoring is there. I'm just trying to get to something what we can't rename to bring up the menu. But I can't. Okay, here's the menu. So it says Visual Studio is not available there. Huh. Interesting. I don't know, Alex. We'll talk about this. But Alex thinks that we're using a VS availability check on that, and I would be surprised about that because when we first implemented this, it did not exist. So this was back in, I think, 2008 or maybe 2005 when we decided to do this. I think it was 2008. Actually, Microsoft asked us to do this for CodeRush Express, put these in, and we just kept it for I think full version. So I do know that for extract method, I believe we did add logic because Visual Studio's extract method was available only in a subset of areas where we were available. And so I think we added logic to detect that and suppress their availability because it's a little bit of dialogue. But here it looks to me like this is coming straight from our availability as well. In fact, I bet we can verify that if we come in over to ours and we say, you know, we're not available. Just return false here, and I bet you the other one goes away. Let's see what happens. Okay. Return false, or not return false, sorry. Hold on, it's non-responsive for a second. Are you seriously going to do this to me now? Visual Studio. I think I'm going to have to kill the other instance of Visual Studio. It looks like it's not. Yeah, this happened to me once earlier today, where it's waiting for the other. And I think it's because I hit the menu key just as I switched over here and hit the breakpoint. So we can't run. We're kind of in this crazy situation where both are waiting for each other. So I'm going to go kill the Visual Studio instance with the least amount of memory.
You gotta love multi-threading deadlocks.
No, I don't.
Bringing your machine to its knees.
I don't have to love those. All right. So I'm going to kill that, and so now we can't test as quickly, but because we have to start the second instance. But hold on.
Fair enough.
Oh wait, hold on a second. I'm going to end it. I need to end it. Okay. So all right. I guess if we do this, we return false. One other thing I wanted to check because I was curious about this. Maybe Alex was the answer to this, but I have not looked at the search preview references. That's what this is for preview. So I bet you if we take this, and what is the difference between these two event args right here? One is search event args, the other is search for preview event args. Let me go into this. Just with that,
presumably because you only want to preview the ones that are on this, visible in this document.
Yep. Shoot, and then one does not descend from the other. So it looks like I'm going to need to duplicate some code here as well. We'll look into this. But let's try this and see if this works for us as well. Put this in here, and what's wrong here? We don't have an add range. Add range. So we have add range, but what does it take? Just the source range, because it knows the file is the same file. So what we have to do is check to see. So we're going to do this. We're going to say if element dot first file equals property dot file node, then we can add the range, which will reference inside this file. And then the other two, these are going to just come in automatically there. And we could also skip the middle part when we collect, for instance, if we were concerned about performance for this preview hint, and just say, you know, we're not going to show all references, but we will show the two. So you could do that as well. But let's try this and see if this works. I'll be interested to see if this works. So let's run it one more time. And I think we're almost done.
Yeah. There are suggestions that maybe you can change your avatar to R2-D2.
Okay.
Due to the bleepy noises that we occasionally get.
All right, I can work on that. All right, so we're running, right? We're running. Let's open up our good old test from the first time we created that object initializer plugin. And let's start with that one test we tried to do before. We'll set a breakpoint here. I think that's on it. Set a breakpoint. Check available. We have it already there. So we'll come over into car, I think is where we were. We'll come here. We'll change this to just return. We return and do nothing. It's going to assume
we expect that neither one of the rename options are available, maybe.
That's what my expectation is. And they're both gone.
There we go.
Yeah, so it looks to me like our availability check for rename, at least, seems to be tied to the code provider. So we need to maybe look at that a bit to see what's going on, to see if we should tweak that or change that. So so right now, Visual Studio can't rename from there, so let's come back one more time. And we're going to return. This time let's check to see if the if we're lighting everything up in the preview. And that's what my hope is. Here's the rename. And we're lighting, well wait, we didn't light this one up down here. We lit up the other two. Why do we not like that? Oh, I know why. It's the check. So we have to go look at that check part right when we're comparing file nodes. Here. This is where I suspect the problem is. Because this is like an iSource file and this is not. It's kind of similar to the problem we've had before, I think. So here, there's a breakpoint, and first file parse yes. So I'm not sure exactly how to fix this. Let's see if we can type this to a source file. And see what happens here with that. Let's do this. When I'm in the situation where I like to just come in and say, let's pop it in the watch window. Source file not valid. Okay, it wants us to go get that. Let's go copy that and put it in here. You might have this problem when you're debugging. If something works in the code but doesn't work in the watch window, you have to qualify this. This is a bug in Visual Studio. What's wrong now? Seriously, the paste?
No, you've pasted over the right-hand bracket. Your cast. There you go.
Hold on. So we need to do this. And another set of columns. What's wrong? What am I doing here?
Compare HTML.
Oh wait, file node. I didn't want to HTML element. Did I? You know, I'm so super confused here. Hold on a second. Element.first file. Why is this?
IntelliSense gotcha.
HTML element. This should be the source file. Is what this should have been. I'm not sure how that got in there. This should be source file. Okay.
There we go.
And we're still not equal to. So interesting. So let's try this instead. What do we have? We have full name. This drives me crazy. Do you see what's happening here? It's eating over my so I have full name here. I don't have a full name here, but I have a name property, and I bet they're the same. No! All right, let's bring this down. I'm determined to make this work, as you can tell. What's going on here? This is full path to it.
Okay.
What is this? Seriously? The full name is just that? Do I have a name property? That's the key. Wow. Full name was interesting. It's right. It's not. It doesn't quite seem as advertised.
Like that. Yeah.
You say you like that?
Well, yeah. Slight sarcasm, perhaps.
Okay. I'll take sarcasm. Okay. So if this name is equal to final name, then we should be okay. And let's see what happens now. Step adding range. Good. So that means we're in the current file. So I'm going to go with that for now. I'm just going to delete these and run. So now it should light up when we do the preview. Come on. Oops. There it is right there. And it lights up.
Yeah. Good.
Good?
Yep.
We can do the rename. We can say, new age, whatever that's going to be. Super age. So now we at least have a way, if you're implementing iProperty notify change, just to link up everything and change everything.
Yeah.
And we got preview hit and everything like that. So I'm going to say, need some refactoring. I will do that, and then I'll submit it. And let's answer any questions. Do we have any questions from anyone?
No questions at the moment. Just one from me. That same limitation would be for all search providers. So if you were trying to extend tab to next reference in a similar fashion, you'd have the same problem. You'd have to start from the string variation.
I've seen evidence that that is not the case, actually.
Really?
Well, yeah, I think I've seen stuff where it actually adds to the list. It adds the range into the list, and it takes care of it.
So maybe it's the features use of the search provider that is less than perfect, perhaps in rename, but better in tab to whatever.
I think we need to. We're going to talk about this. This is an architectural point that we're going to talk about, and my guess is after 11.2 comes out, I'm going to do a follow-up that's going to show you the easier way to do this, what we just done, and without having to go find all the references and add those. But the cool thing is, look at this, Roy. How hard is it to find all references to a property? It's one call, right? It's not hard to do, right? There's a little bit of extra work, like here in add range. Why not just give me a file node parameter and a range? That would be so much nicer, so I don't have to construct a new file source range every time. I would love an overload for add range that took those two. But it looks like those are not there yet, so we've got a little bit extra code here. Would have been nice to have a value range on primitive expression. That would be nice too, just in terms of cleaning this code up. But we're talking about ultimately not a lot of code to do something kind of cool.
Oh no, not by any stretch. This is all very readable too. Everyone can follow along with this.
And we got 2 features today.
Excellent.
So, okay, any other questions?
Nothing I can see.
Okay. Thank you to everyone who's watching, and thanks to Alex. Thanks to Rory and Amanda. I am going to pass it back to you, and between now and next week, I will figure out what's going on with the audio, and if I can solve it, I hope this is going to be, I'll be able to determine what the problem is, and then it'll be better quality next week.
Awesome.
Okay?
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Amanda.
All right, everybody. Every Wednesday, Mark and Rory, I'm sorry, I've got Seth and Mahul in my office doing a dance. I think they're actually doing some moves from your Smash Mouth dancing, Mark.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if those were, suddenly caught fire.
I wouldn't be either. All right, so
I guess what
Wednesday,
I'm talking about is catching fire. I'm talking about like the friction, in my pants or something like that. Did I just say that? You better edit that out, Amanda. I don't think I said that.
I'm going to edit out friction in my pants.
Okay, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Every Wednesday, Mark and Rory build a new feature for Visual Studio using CodeRush and the DX Core. You can email Rory your suggestions at roryb@devexpress.com, or you can tweet at them, including hashtag CodeRush with your suggestion. We have a whole lineup of webinars that are currently posted throughout October. You can check out devexpress.com/webinars for the full list. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., XNA MVP Christy Williams is back with more on Windows Phone 7, consuming web-based services from Windows Phone apps and games. This webinar will cover connecting to various web services and consuming their data via Silverlight and XNA on Windows Phone. Also, Thursday at noon Pacific Standard Time, please join the DevExpress management team for a build conference recap and preview of what's coming in 11.2, so that should be cool. And then finally, Friday at 10 a.m., ASP.NET MVC Grid View. Edit the grid view using inline, pop-up, or custom template edit forms with Mehul Hari. And then again, if you missed anything from this webinar, you want to review any of our previous CodeRush Feature Wednesdays, you can check us out at tv.devexpress.com. Again, thanks so much to Mark and Rory. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks for choosing DevExpress.